Hi guys, it's Julia Papworth with Waiver Wire Wins for Win Daily for week 11 of the NFL fantasy season. You can find me on social at Julia Papworth. All right guys, let's get started. First up, quarterbacks. The first guy I think you should look for, just in case he's not rostered, is Kyler Murray. He is 73% rostered, so it's not tons of chance that you'll find him. But guys, he looked really great. I am a Cardinals fan, but besides that, man, I have never seen someone coming off of an ACL injury move like Kyler did. He was 19 for 32, 249 yards, 33 yards rushing, and he had a touchdown. He could have had a monster game. There were a couple touchdowns that were missed just by a little bit of time. There was that tush push that Clayton Tune went in for, but I think he's back, guys, and running is a cheat code in fantasy football. Double check and see if he's on your waiver wire. Joshua Dobbs, Minnesota Vikings. He's 53% rostered. He is the hero we didn't know we needed, I think. 23 for 34, 268 yards, one touchdown. He had 44 yards rushing with a touchdown as well. And guys, he looked great. They're at Denver next week. Really good as well. Justin Jefferson should be back soon. He's somebody that I think you could play the rest of the season if you have to. You can also look at Baker Mayfield. Tampa Bay, 52% rostered. He went 18 for 29, 278 yards, two touchdowns, 12 yards rushing. You kind of know what you're getting with Baker, but if you need someone with bye weeks, you could check him out. He did have a little bit banged up with his thumb at the end of the game, so just check on that. And finally, everyone's favorite fantasy quarterback, Jameis Winston. He is not really rostered at all. Derek Carr had a concussion late in the game. He came out to the media and said he thinks he's going to be ready to play next week, but you never know. Jameis went 13 for 25, 122 yards, and in classic Jameis form, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. But in 3 passes, there was a touchdown to Olave and a 2-point conversion to Kamara. So if you are a Chris Olave owner, you are definitely happy if Jameis Winston is the quarterback. Running backs. A lot of people have dropped Antonio Gibson. Washington Commanders, he's 52% rostered. He had 4 rushes for 13 yards, but he was 5 for 6 with receiving, 42 yards in the air, and 1 touchdown. They play the Giants next week. That's all I can tell you. They play the Giants next week. Devin Singletary, Houston Texans, 49% rostered. We didn't know if Houston was going to even have a run game, and they ended up having one. Dameon Pierce was out again, and Singletary got the lion's share of the work. He had 30 rushes. That was all but 2. 2 went to the wide receivers and 2 went to Stroud. So he had pretty much all of the running attempts. He ran for 150 yards, and he had a touchdown, and he had 2 targets in the air. I think when Pierce comes back, it's going to be a shared backfield now, and it's scary because I was a big Pierce supporter, so it's kind of weird to see and scary to see him kind of fall by the wayside here. Keaton Mitchell, Baltimore Ravens, 47% rostered. If you went and got Keaton Mitchell last week, congratulations. He was probably sitting on your bench, which was the right play. Like, you shouldn't have put Keaton Mitchell in. But now I feel way more confident suggesting to go after him and perhaps start him after seeing how Baltimore has used him in 2 weeks. He had only 3 carries for 34 yards, but he had a touchdown, and he had 32 yards receiving on 2 targets. He had the most running back targets, and he's going to now make that move ahead of Justice Hill. It was a 3-headed monster there: Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell. And I think it's going to be really hard for the team to keep Mitchell in that 3rd RB spot. He's just so good. He's aggressive. He's fast. And I think he's going to be an RB2. If something happens to Gus Edwards, then you have a potential league winner on your hands. And finally, Ty Chandler, Minnesota Vikings. He is 7% rostered. Alexander Madison had a concussion late in the game. We don't know what's going on there. We don't know if he's going to come back. But now Cam Akers is out of the picture, so Chandler is the backup. He had 15 carries, which was the most on the team, 45 yards and a touchdown. And if Madison misses next week, they are playing Denver. So that's a pretty good matchup for Ty Chandler. And look, he looks good. I always thought that he was someone who should have gotten more carries right out of the gate. Romeo Dobbs, Green Bay Packers. He's 53% rostered. He caught 3 passes out of his 5 targets, 31 yards and a touchdown. Not incredible, but he did have a 20% target share that led all wide receivers in Green Bay. Green Bay's offense is not great, and Dobbs might just be a just in case if you need to fill that roster spot, but he's someone you can look at. Demario Douglas, New England Patriots, 35% rostered. Everyone ran to pick up Douglas last week. He still did pretty well this week. He caught 6 passes for 84 yards. He ran the second most routes out of the wide receivers in New England. Look, again, New England, not a great offense. We don't know what's going to happen there, if it's going to be Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, but it seems like Douglas is the number 1 wide receiver here. They are on a bye next week, so you might, if you already have Douglas, you might have to drop him, or if you need someone that you can start immediately, that might be an issue for you. Next up is Quentin Johnston, Los Angeles Chargers, 29% rostered. We got a couple Chargers on this list. Johnston went 4 for 4, 34 yards and a touchdown. He tied for the second most routes, and he only had 1 less route run than Keenan Allen. We were kind of waiting to see who would break out. He's a rookie that we've been hoping to have one of those big games. This wasn't a big game by any definition, but it was nice to see a little bit of spark there. He's an option for you. Another Chargers wide receiver to look at is Jalen Guyton. He went 4 for 6, 41 yards and a touchdown. He had the same amount of routes as Quentin Johnston. So it might just be kind of who's available and who do you feel comfortable starting moving forward. Keenan was also a little shooken up at the end of this game. He had a shoulder issue in the third quarter. He did come back in, but that's something to monitor as well as picking up these wide receivers. Noah Brown is going to be the big run on the waiver wire this week, I think. Houston Texans, he's 24% rostered. He went 7 for 8 for 172 yards. He's had back-to-back 150-yard games, and he ran the third most routes for Houston. Guys, the Texans are legit, and I love it. I love that offense, they're looking to make a run for that division. Nico Collins missed a game this week. I don't know if that's going to continue to happen, but obviously the target share went up with Collins out. If Collins comes back, Brown is just a wide receiver 3, but we know that CJ Stroud is throwing the ball, and I kind of want to have a piece of the offense. So it's an okay pickup if you have the room for it on the bench. Also, to finish out the wide receivers, Michael Wilson, Arizona Cardinals, he is 12% rostered. He went 3 for 6 for 24 yards, not an insane stat line, but he ran the second most routes, and he did miss a touchdown on a penalty. I think he was in. I think that was a touchdown, but that's just me. Little T McB, Trey McBride, Arizona Cardinals. He's 58% rostered. A lot of people went and picked him up over the last couple weeks, so it might be hard for you to find him, but he went 8 for 9, 131 yards, third most routes run. Kyler's back. Kyler likes to target the tight ends, and McBride looks great. That's it. That's all I have to say. I think he's a plug-and-play tight end. If you got lucky enough to have him, I don't think you need to worry about him the rest of the year. And finally, Luke Musgrave, Green Bay Packers, 23% rostered. He only went 2 for 4 with 64 yards, but again, he had the third most routes run. When you're looking at tight ends, you just want them on the field. You just want them to get the opportunities. Musgrave has been having those, so he's worth a look at as well, and they play the Chargers next week. All right, guys, that's it for me. That was Waiver Wire Wins for Win Daily for Week 11. Be sure to find me on social. I am at Julia Papworth. All right, guys, good luck out there.